welcome back to TNN's coverage of the world's 9 best fantasy football players league. I'm your host, and this is what we have for you this week. In late breaking news, some have an eye towards TNN expert Danny Football. Accusations arose linking him to Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator Matt Canada and a potential burner account. TNN will be looking into the story and investigating more in the future as facts become clear. Now, here's Danny Football with his picks for Week 5. Hey, what's up, guys? World's 9 best fantasy football players expert, Danny Football here, back with another week of expert predictions. Last week was not so great for me. First rough week of the season, going 2-4, bringing my total on the year to 14-10. My guest, Mike Vanek, had a nice week, going 4-2, being the first guest of the year to beat the expert and secure his spot back here for the playoffs. But now, it's a new week, there's a new guest, and a new chance to beat the expert. So guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Danny Football. It's always a pleasure to be joining. You are esteemed expert from the sports desk of TNN. We can address some of the allegations later on in the show regarding a certain Matt Canada and a burner Twitter account and see if you have any responses. I'm sure your host will be doing a full investigative journalism analysis and letting us know. But anyway, for those new to the show, Maddie B, I hope you're watching. I told you I would send you a link once my appearance on the show comes in. So welcome to the world's 9 best fantasy football
We love new
players.
fans of the show.
We love having new fans of the show.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the
Yes.
bell. I'd be not doing my job as an expert if I didn't tell all the
Yes.
fans.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and especially ring the bell. You got to be joining in on the premieres. We have a blast in the comments. Everyone's got hot takes. You don't want to miss out. It's not the same watching the chat replay.
It's
Believe
true.
me, you want to be there. You want your voice to be heard. I'm joining you live from the International Space Station, making the first outer stellar appearance on TNN show. So thank you again, Danny Football, for having me.
Of course, great to have you here, and great to have this historic, record-breaking show. Our first guests not on the planet. Very much looking forward to see those out of this world takes this week.
Yes, and in case I forgot to mention, historic franchise, Blood, Sweat, and Beers. Probably the best trader in the league. I'll say it.
Historic trader.
Historic trader. Combination of frequency and overall success. I think people are happy when they trade with me. Just something to think about for anyone out there in the league who may be interested in trading. Just something to think about.
All right. In our first matchup, we have Team Big Chungus 22 taking on Undefeated Never Lost. Big Chungus favored in this one at 60%. Big Chungus, they got a pretty nice win last week going against the SWAT team. I think it was a big upset, and not a lot of people, or at least not this expert and his esteemed guest, Mike Vanek, picking the Chung guy last week. But, they got it done. Unfortunately for them, I'm still not very high on this team. I think that they're a team that's very middle of the road with big downside later in the year. I think this is the team. They're either going to middle or they're going to do what really needs to be done. And owner Big Chungus himself is going to trade Tyreek Hill come the trade deadline. That's my hot take. Tyreek on a different team come week 13 this year. For Undefeated Never Lost, they've got another 0-4 start. It's just, historic. Another historic season for Undefeated Never Lost. And I think they maybe had expectations coming into this year. This is a team that has just been riddled with failure top to bottom, and it really makes you question if team ownership is asleep at the wheel. Roberto Kraft needs to wake up and make some tough decisions about general manager slash defensive coordinator Miguel. I think he's got to be on the hot seat. And I think he's going to be even more on the hot seat after starting out 0-5. I'm picking the Chung guy this week.
Wow, Danny Football, I cannot tell you how glad I am to hear you say that. And can I just say, how awesome is it for you to put this matchup as the first one? Because boy, do I have thoughts about both of these teams.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
Fans of the show will know that historically, Danny Football has been pretty anti-Chungus. But fans of the show will also know that I am very, very pro Chunga people. I am a big, big fan of the work they do there. I think they're a criminally underrated team. They're coming off a hot victory against corrupt Commissioner Tooch and
True.
his fraudulent three-peat team. I think the signs are pointing up, the arrows are pointing up. Things are good in Chungai land right now. They are
Okay,
hot,
interesting.
and I don't see them slowing down anytime this week. Now, on the other side of the field, we've got undefeated, never lost. Admittedly, a historic franchise. I can already see Miguel in the chat going, undefeated, never lost mentioned, undefeated, never lost not picked, because they
Historic
are going
historic franchise, got to recognize historic franchise.
exactly. They are not going to come close this week. A lot of people are saying they're a wide receiver away, maybe one in particular who I know you may be interested in getting, maybe even Tyreek Hill. Who knows who that one wide receiver could be? You never know. And fans of the show will also know that I'm a big fan of offensive coordinator Daniel Stortz. I wish
As we
him
all are.
nothing, I wish him nothing but the best. You know, it's really a situation where you got to question when Roberto Kraft, like you said, is going to make some leadership changes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe moving Danny to the number one role on this team. Is that what undefeated never lost needs? Is that what the team needs to shake it up?
Or really, is
Regardless,
Danny going to be so fed up with the losing culture? They're not appreciating him
yeah,
and his talents.
I agree. I would not be surprised to see Daniel Stortz jump ship. You know, there's a lot of talk about loyalty these days in sports, and I think it's really going to test the loyalty of this historic franchise to see if they can't turn it around. But let me tell you, they're not turning it around this week. This is an 0-5 team, guarantee 0-5. We're going with the Chungus.
Next up, we have the SWAT team taking on Team M Vanek. SWAT currently favored in this one at 57%. Who do you like here?
Yeah, just another matchup where you've got two teams possibly going in opposite directions. You've got the SWAT team coming off one of their lowest scoring performances, probably in league history. I can't
True.
remember a time they've scored sub 160 in recent memory. And you've got Mike Vanek, who cooled down a little bit this past week, but 2 weeks ago was the league's leading scorer. That being said, I don't think that Team M Vanek has the juice to make it again. Big
Mm.
fan of Bijan Robinson. Big fan of the picks that Mike Vanek has collected. That first rounder from Tom 2 years ago from the DeAndre Hopkins trade. It's
It's looking
looking
nice.
pretty juicy right now. It's looking pretty good. I think things are pointing up for M Vanek, but not yet. Not right now. I think the SWAT team, Commissioner Tooch, will be out for blood. He's desperate. Last year, we saw a similar thing where he didn't start out so great, had some early season losses. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think he rights the ship. I think SWAT team goes to 3-2, and they take the easy victory this week.
Yeah, I like that pick. The SWAT team, they've been in really rough shape lately. As you mentioned, historically bad week for them, losing to a big chunk of team that I personally am not very high on. they've just got tons of injuries, top to bottom. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel. They've got a couple key bye weeks for DK and Rashad White, who are two of their only serviceable offensive players. This team, look, they're probably going to be relying on Marvin Mims making a big play this week, and that is never a situation you want to be in as a team. Team Vanek, though, is a team I personally been very kind to over the past couple weeks. I complimented them on their draft strategy, their stockpile of picks, really turning the team around, and they've had some big performances to back it up. But the question though is, has this team turned the corner, or is it just a little hot streak to start the season? I think a battle with the champs is going to be a great way for this team Vanek to go out there and try to stake their claim on this league, show that they're a real contender. And I don't think they're going to get it done. SWAT team, I'm picking them in this one. I'm expecting a bounce back for the commissioner this week.
Great pick from the expert. I agree.
Next up, we have the Coochie Gang taking on JK. We're still Mahorny. JK favored here at 56%. These are two 1-3 teams, and this is one that I would call the mediocrity bowl if it weren't for another matchup that we have to talk about this week. I think any team that falls to 1-4, really, you got to start thinking, reevaluating your entire season at that point, thinking about if you want to blow things up. For Joe, that's obviously not an option to go and blow things up after making his splashy trades. He's very low on draft capital. And Tom, as you mentioned before, is also without his first round pick after the DeAndre Hopkins trade. So he's also unlikely to blow it up if he goes to 1-4. I'd say it's very likely that whoever loses this week, they're going to miss the playoffs. And they're also not going to have a realistic path to scrap their team for parts and try to rebuild for the future. It is certainly not a position that I would want to be in if I had a team in this league. Joe desperately needs Saquon to come back, and I don't know if that's going to happen just yet. So, despite the fact that I called the Coochie Gang lucky last week, and they went on to get absolutely curb stomped by the mental brick walls, and despite the fact that they are rolling what is probably an injured Derek Carr out there at quarterback this week, I'm going to go with the Coochie Gang to take the win.
It's a good pick, Danny Football. When I look at these two teams, you hit on a lot of the main points there. Both of them 1-3, both of them no first round draft pick. My expert analysis tells me that for Coochie Gang, this is a must-win game.
Yeah.
But for JK, we're still Mahorny. This is a can't-lose game. And that's a big difference there. That's a big difference between a must-win and a can't-lose. And between the two, I think that Coochie Gang, he rebounds well from last week. He doesn't have the added pressure of not having the next 2 years of first-round draft picks. I think he's still got some juice left in him. I think Devontae Adams will be on a very, very high touchdown watch going against his former team in the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be definitely a big player to look out for. You're right in that Derek Carr is probably not the best QB to start here, but ultimately against JK, we're still Mahorny. I think they've got enough juice to pull it out. And so Coochie Gang will win their must-win game, and JK, we're still Mahorny, will lose their can't-lose game.
Moving on, we have Blood, Sweat, and Beers taking on Slob. Blood, Sweat, and Beers favored at 57%. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
So first off, I just have to say thank you to Nooch for changing that horrific name that we were forced to speak on for just about a year. I am so thrilled to see Slob on My Dobbs be the new name for that historic franchise. That being said, I think they're going up against a very, very well-rounded team in Blood, Sweat, and Beers.
Hmm.
Tua, he'll be looking to bounce back from a difficult game against the Bills. Alvin Kamara will probably have 30 catches for 30 yards
True.
again. Uh, Aaron Jones will be looking to come up against a good. He'll have a good matchup against the Raiders there. We'll be on the lookout for what they roll out at tight end in Blood, Sweat, and Beers. But honestly, with how the league is going with tight end, I'm not concerned about it. I'm not worried. I think they'll be fine. I don't think that Slav on my has enough firepower. I think Josh Allen cools off after his big game this week. The real matchup here is between DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney, two prolific wide receivers from the historic offense of the Chicago Bears going up against each other. I think Darnell Mooney outscores DJ Moore in this game, and I think the
Wow.
Blood, Sweat, and Beers outscores Slava My Dobbs in this game. You can lock it up.
Bold take. That's, it's time for all the loyal fans out there. You got to tune in, watch the Bears this Thursday
Yes.
night. See who's going to win this matchup. Everyone out there should be watching this game Thursday night after the show comes out, by the way.
Yes.
So for this matchup, this is the one I'd like to officially dub the mediocrity
Oof.
bowl. And it's brutal out here. It pains my expert brain to have to comprehend these two teams facing off against each other. Slob, who I will not say the full name because this is a family show, and I do mark these videos as safe for children. So just something to point out that they have essentially nobody to throw out there with a few of their bigger names on bye. I genuinely was appalled when I looked at who was available to be plugged in on their bench. It's just absolutely disgusting. I don't know how you can throw these guys in your starting lineup. I talked before about how the SWAT team was bad for having to throw Marvin Mims out there. Nooch is just on another level with scraping the bottom of the barrel. For Blood, Sweat, and Beers, I know they want to embrace the tank, and starting Mike Gesicki and Antonio Gibson will certainly go a long way in helping with that. I'm very curious to see how far this team's going to go with shipping players off. I think Alvin Kamara or Aaron Jones could potentially be nice trade ships down the line with all those big injuries to running backs so far this season. But when it comes down to it, you got to pick between these two terrible teams. I'm going to go with the team that actually wants to win. I'm picking Slob, even though I absolutely do not love the pick. It's hard to find things to like about either of these teams. Moving on, we have the Bandits taking on Ham and Throw. Bandits favored in this one at 58%. We're just going to keep this one short, sweet, to the point. I hate Ham and Throw. The team is bad, and I cannot wait to watch them put Jameson Williams into their starting lineup just to watch him have an absolute dud of a game. I think it's going to be very funny. Nobody on their team inspires confidence, from the players on the taxi squad to the IR, which is still limited to 3 spots, the bench, the starting lineup, all the way up to the management in Mike Visconti himself. For the Bandits, Jacob, I know you're a historic fan of the show, but for all the fans out there, people who maybe don't know, I, Danny Football, am high on the Bandits, and they've done nothing this season to make me waver in that love for them. Trayvon Walker, great performance last week. He had the very rare 1 sack while also scoring less than 10 points performance. We love a man who sacks for no loss. It's just fantastic. Really great team player. I think the Bandits are one of the best teams in this league. Certainly one that I've got my eye on have had my eye on for a very long time. They're undefeated for a reason. And we're going to bring back the Bandits train this week because I am fully on it against Ham and Throw. I'm picking the Bandits.
That's a good pick, Danny Football. This will
It's
be an
one only.
interesting
It's a
match.
pick only an expert would make.
Only an expert certainly could come up with a hard-hitting analysis that you've got. So I know for the Bandits, one thing they'll be keeping an eye out on, key trade pickup in Myles Garrett on bye this week. He's had a couple great weeks, putting up 40 2 weeks ago. It's going to be a big loss. We'll be interested to see how they replace him on the D line. But like you said, Trayvon Walker, watch the tape.
Mm-hmm.
He jumps off the tape. I think this is his big opportunity to move into the D-line spot from the IDP flex spot
Oh,
and to show what he's got, show the league, put the league officially on notice. If you aren't already on notice, this is your opportunity to be even more on notice. Between that and a historically middling team. We talked about the middling bowl last match between Slav and Blood, Sweat, and Beers, but as historic fan and league member Miguel has pointed out numerous times, there is no one more fifth place than Mike Visconti.
well,
And
except
I
for
think,
last year when he missed the playoffs entirely.
yes, except for last year. Hamthrow's ceiling is a fifth place team.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't ever go higher. He may go lower, but he will never go higher than a fifth place team. That's just who Ham and Throw is. That's just the culture they've built around their team. He's got some exciting young players, and Anthony Richardson, Notre Dame legend Kyron Williams. But
True.
unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm with you. I'm getting on the Bandits train. I'm riding the caboose. Let's go. Ride the train, Bandits in a landslide.
Producers add him to the train. Finally, in our marquee matchup of the week, we have the Judon Noodles taking on the Mental Brick Walls. Judon currently favored at 59%. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think he made a great choice in making this the marquee matchup of the week. We've got two very, very strong teams. Mental Brick Walls coming off a historic performance, 330 points. My God, I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again.
Until
60
next week.
plus until next week. Until next week. This is certainly going to be a fireworks show. 60 points from Khalil Mack.
68.
68 points
68.
from Khalil Mack. I mean, who knows when we're going to see those kind of stats again.
Some are saying never again because sacks are getting nerfed after that performance.
True. However,
I'd like to go out on a limb and say Danny Football is on board with whatever the league decides when it comes to nerfing sacks.
wow,
I'm
this is
anti-Commissioner
hard
Tooch.
stance.
I'm a man of the people. I'm an expert of the people. And whatever the people decide, that's how I feel.
People forget
Except
the people.
for picking. I go against the people all the time there.
Yeah. People forget the people had a chance to vote, and they all voted to not. They voted to not nerf sacks. So I don't know where all of this commotion is coming from. People are chatting on the side, but you know what? Vote, okay? I don't vote in real elections because I don't believe in it. I don't think it's real. I don't think it works. I vote in world's nine best fantasy football player elections. These are the elections that matter. This plays a tangible role in my life. Unlike real politics, I have nothing to gain or lose from that. This is what I come for. This is what I vote for. So please, I implore you, call your local representatives and vote in this coming summer's elections. I think it'll be very important for us.
It's a true election of the people too. One vote
Yes.
per person.
Direct democracy.
No electoral college.
Yes.
This is true speaking to the people of the league, the historic fans of the show. But please continue to make your pick.
Speaking of historic fans of the show, I wonder if we should consider opening it up to fans of the show to vote
Hmm.
instead of league members. It would be
Oh,
interesting to see if our loyal subscribers and our loyal fans have a different opinion of those of us in the league.
true. I would be interested to hear what the loyal fans of the show have to say.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the matchup at hand. Uh, I do not think mental brick walls, despite coming off their historic performance, Khalil Mack on bye, guaranteed to not have 6+ sacks this week. I guarantee it. I promise you he will not have 6 sacks this week. I think the Judon Noodles are hot. They've flown under the radar. They had a slow start to the league. People forget. They were not looking too hot their first 2 years. Last year, they made it all the way to the chip and lost. I think they're out with a vengeance. They're undefeated, number 2 ranked team in the league. They want to make a statement. Christian McCaffrey, still unbelievably amazing. Raheem Mostert, really, really good, really solid. They've got great wide receivers. They've got great depth. Their defense, not the best, could use a little work, but ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter. I think that the Judon Noodles historically, previously under previous names, were known as a team that would fail down the stretch. They
True.
would fail when the lights turned bright. I think they've shed that moniker. They've shed that identity when they dropped the Pumper McNichols name. And under the Judon Noodles, I think they're ready to take the next step and they're ready to be the team to beat in the league. So I'm going with the Judon Noodles in this week's marquee matchup.
Yeah, that's a good pick. The brick walls in back-to-back marquee matchups. Look, it's hard to
Just like Notre
go.
Dame.
You literally stole the words right from my mouth. Great minds think alike on this
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
They exploded for the league record last week. Just insane. Blew Team M Vanek out of the water. I'm glad Team M Vanek had their 1 week to enjoy being in the top spots. Just as the SWAT team before them had 1 week to enjoy their top spot before it was taken by Tom and whatever iteration of team name he had at that point. I think this team, the Brick Walls, though, must have heard me say that the Coochie Gang was lucky last week because they decided to just make that game completely out of reach. An embarrassing performance. But you do have to wonder, with Khalil Mack on a bye, is this team due for a downfall? Sacks were very clearly rigged in this team's favor last week. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to hold up this week. Speaking of sacks being rigged, the Judon Noodles are now going to be without team namesake Matthew Judon for the foreseeable future and potentially the entire year. He has been a sack machine for this team over the past couple of years. That's a big hit for them, and I think they'll still be a playoff team, but that is a big hit for their championship aspirations. You can only feel for Matthew Judon after team owner Timmy cursed him with the team name curse. So, prayers out to Matthew Judon. Hopefully he's able to come back very soon. I think this one ends up being really close. These are two teams I've got my eye on. I'm expecting to see both of them in the playoffs, but I'm going to go and give the nod to the Brick Walls this week. Thank you so much for being on. It's been great to have you. I'm wishing you all the best of luck with your picks. Of course, not as good as me. Can't beat the expert. You're really going to need it because you are the lowest in our guest picker power rankings. So hopefully we can turn that around. But it's been great to have you on this week.
Thanks for having me, Daddy Football. People forget that I did beat the expert last year in spite of being the lowest picks. I think I had two correct, and the expert only managed to make one correct pick. So I'm looking to extend my streak of not only beating the expert, but maintaining my spot as the lowest, the worst guest picker on the show. I think I would like that to stay as my legacy.
It's a very honorable spot, hard to claim. I think you're sitting around like 1/3 correct right now, so gonna be hard for someone to take that spot from you.
But thank you for having me, Danny Football. Thanks as always for all the work that you do on the show. To your host, won't be thanking Commissioner Tooch because he's crooked and rigged. However, between you and your host, it's always a pleasure watching TNN. We look forward to your official statement on the Matt Canada burner.
And thank you, Danny Football and guest Jacob, for those great picks. That's all we have for you this week. Be sure to tune in next week to see how things shook out. I'm your host, and this has been TNN.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell.